Well, hello. Nice to see you. Nice to see you again if you join me on a Monday morning, or thank you very much for joining me if you're new. You're most welcome, and thank you for spending time with me. I do appreciate it and I love it. My name's Penny. I live here with Pete, my husband, and my 5 chickens. And it's been a good week. Yes, we went out for the day. We visited Goodnestone Park or Goodnestone House. And it's just this side of Canterbury and it's absolutely beautiful. They plant their gardens up just how we like them. Very wildlifey, very all packed full and colour. And we had lunch out, and that's been our first outing for absolutely months and months because, yeah, we look after ourselves and how the situation is, that's what's necessary. But we certainly enjoyed our day out. Everybody wore masks and very well spaced, and I felt very safe. So that was a lovely treat. So I hope you've had one too. So it's taking a sort of shape at the moment. My husband's wandering about. It's a bit off-putting, so I'll just let him tootle off. Oh dear, he's going to sit out there and do some bird watching by the looks of it. So this is sort of taking shape now. I do a little bit about crafting at the beginning, so if you don't like crafting, you can whiz forward from that. Then there's Poetry Corner, and my friend Heather has written a poem about pressure cookers of all things, and talking with Mum about pressure cookers. Oh dear, she said, you have to get the gas just right and this just right, and otherwise you get it all up on the ceiling. And so I think they're quite notorious things, and a lot of people are scared of them. Anyway, she wrote a poem about one. So we got Poetry Corner, and then I pop round to Mum's and have a cup of tea with her because she's taking us through her early life. And this week it's from up to 1939. She was born in 1926, and so she talks about just before the war. And then after that, I put a little film up, and this week it was about gannets and some handy information I found about them if you're interested. So there we are. We're sort of forming sections, aren't we? I know other people, they can put it in sections underneath, but I haven't a clue how to do that. But Heather's husband, Andrew, is a bit of a whiz. So when they come to stay, they said they're coming for a long weekend. We'll both do a test, and then I'm going to get him to show me how to put the little bits so that you can just go onto the bits you want to watch if you don't want to watch it all. Fair dues. So shall we start with the crafting? And I thought I'd start. Last week it was about EPP, English paper piecing. And I thought I'd show you the cushion that was over there because I talked about it. And here it is. Ooh, it's a bit heavy. Not heavy, a bit awkward to hold up, but I'll do my best. So here, do you remember like the quilt I showed you? We've got just diamond shapes. And when it comes to the edge, you just cut the diamond off as to, put your ruler down and cut it off. That's the whole diamond. But then this little bit gets cut. That gets cut in half. No, there's a whole diamond. Yes, it's amazing, isn't it? So for the tumbling blocks, we have a light, a medium, and a dark. Another tumbling block, a light, a medium, and a dark. Here's another tumbling block, a light, a medium, and a dark. And so we go on all the way round, light, medium, and dark. But can you see? It's a bit of an illusion, isn't it? Because it's forming these patterns with the diamonds. So if you look your eye, you can see the tumbling block. But then if you blink and let your eye go again, you see 3 stars, a half a star and half a star. I think that's the pattern actually. That's it, that's better. And then on the edge I just cut little squares, we call them piano keys type of thing, round the edge. So that's my EPP. And this one was done with papers. It hasn't got that, because I thought it doesn't need the Ashmead because you've got a lovely cushion in there. So I made it with papers. And Liberty do a lovely one that I used for the background. So there's the cushion. The other thing I wanted to show you, EPP, was a dog I made. I've made several actually, and I thoroughly enjoyed making it. And I got the inspiration from the first podcast I ever watched, and it's Last Homely House with Kate, and she shows you how to make it. So if you wanted to go on and see how to make it, if you were interested, then, you know, do so. But I thought, oh, I fancy doing that. It's just made with squares. And here's my dog. Oh, here we are. Oh, can you see that's the fabric I used for that quilt I showed you last week? And when you do the eye, she said, try and find a fabric that gives a little bit of an inclination of an eye. So I chose that. And then on that side, I chose that. So you just do it in rows, really. 3, 3, 3, 6, 3, 6, 3, 6, 2, 2, 1 here, and then 1 for the ear. So you make that flat, and then you make it exactly the same. 3, 3, 6, 6, 6, 2, 2, and pop a 1 on there and a 1 on there. And then you make a long line of them. So you put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and count them all round. Make a great long line. And then comes the fiddly bit, because obviously you do it inside out, and you sew them together. It's not difficult, just sew them together, and you've got a beautiful dog. I love him. But of course that prompts me to say, my friend Heather, not the Heather that writes the poem, another friend Heather, she made one, but she tried it on the machine, and she made it with very small squares. So this, you just over sew it like you do for EPP by hand. But she made one on the machine. I'll get it and show you. But I would say it's near impossible to do on the machine because it is, and also the size of squares that she used. And so he became our lookout during lockdown. She gave him to me, and during lockdown she said, here's your lookout, because I was very nervous in lockdown, and yeah, he's the lookout to make sure everything went okay and nobody came in. And he's called Mr. Wonky. This is Mr. Pompous, because he is a bit, isn't he? He's got his nose in the air. He knows he's beautiful. But her one was called Mr. Wonky. And actually they're firm friends, but I'll show you him. He does look round corners, as you can see. Here he is. She'll kill me for showing you, but I don't care. Oh, he's gorgeous, isn't he? And that's, if you do it on the machine, that's how hard it is to do it on the machine. Oh, I see as well. She didn't do it squares here. She just did a long line of fabric. A different ball game, Heather. She just fancied sewing one up on the machine like she does. She's very, very quick on the machine, and she's very prolific with what she turns out. So there's Mr. Wonky. He looks round corners and he's my lookout, but they're firm friends. So that again is EPP. What you can do with EPP, you can do all number of things. And so all number of things, let me show you this. This is Ashmead. As you can see, it's got the fabric behind. And I've put a plain piece around and tacked it. And you know how when you, I don't know, I just make a pile. I'll make a pile of them and see what happens. So I did. I made a pile of them. That one's plain. I'm not sure what these are. I've got it here. I'm going to have to stand up again. But I'll show you close up first. I just made a pile and then thought, what am I going to do with these? As is my way. Oh yes. I didn't like the plain, so I only made one plain. What I was going to do with this, I remember, I was going to do a little bit of embroidery on it, and I still think it would be a very nice project to do. To do a little few flowers on there, but that's not where I wanted. I just wanted something, sit there and do whatever. So I made quite a few, what they call, I think, flowers. I'll show you. And it's Tilda fabric. I love Tilda fabric. And let me show you on the plain. Here we are. So I just got one of those, as I've showed you, and then sewed the 6 round. So I made a big pile of flowers. There's one with elephants. Yes, I kept to the same, let me just do this. I kept to the same fabric because I thought it gave it a bit of continuity, although I didn't know what I was going to do with it. There's the elephants again. So you don't need a lot just to make one. So you can make it from scraps. There's a green elephant. And some of it is Liberty. This is Liberty. So, I love this one, Tilda. That again is the fussy cutting I was talking about, to get the flowers in the same position on each one. So I thought, what am I going to do with them? I made a pile. Let me show you the brown one with the ducks on. I do like it. Oh, here it is. So I thought, what am I going to do with them? A big pile of them. I thought, well, I'll put them on square fabric. So then I had a pile of squares with those sewn onto them. And then I thought, well, I might as well make a quilt. So I'll stand up and show you the quilt. So as you can see, it's pretty big. And this is one of my whips. And the way I quilt this, because it's, as you can see, it's jolly heavy. So I usually do this mainly like in the winter would be a good time when I can lay on the bed or the settee and have this over me. So the settee or the bed is supporting it. And I've started quilting it. So what I've done is I've gone round each square in the ditch. We call it in the ditch, as you can see there. And then I'm doing like a petal shape in each corner. I think I've done a couple of lines, that's all. With my petal shape and then doing it round in the ditch, so that will hold that down. And then I'm going in the ditch, just in there, to hold that down. And did you see the cave facet on the back? Wow, it's stunning, isn't it? Very silky, it's like silk. And then you can see there's not much point in doing too much quilting. It's just about holding it down and doing where it can be seen. So that's one of my whips, but as you can see, it's very large, it's very heavy, but it looks beautiful on the bed. I've got a queen size bed, and that sits beautifully on the queen size bed. 2 full-size singles zipped together. So yeah, that's one of my whips. So I think that's the end of EPP to show you. And so we'll say cheerio for now, and then I'll put up Mum's little chat when I pop round for a cup of tea. So I'll see you after that. Well, I'm here with Mum again, round for a cup of tea. We've had our tea actually, haven't we, Mum?
Yes,
we sat nattering.
Yes.
Just had it. So you won't hear me gulping like you did last week, because I noticed that. So we're going to carry on, and where did we land up, Mum?
Well, I think we decided to talk about from when I was 3 until the war.
That's it, when you were 3.
Yes.
So when you were 3, that's right, because we showed the photo, didn't we?
Yes.
Of you up on the roof with your mum in the deck chair,
Yeah.
and with Uncle Alf.
Yes.
And you're going to that little school. But before we go any further ahead, I'd like to go a little bit further back, because you were thinking what it must have been like for your mum when she had you, because you were the baby of the family.
Yes. What a difference it was to when I had you, because then the NHS was there and everything was so different. It was marvellous. But
yeah.
With my mum, I don't believe I think she only had a neighbour. She was at home when she had me. And I remember my sister saying that she was sent off to go swimming because it was in June and it was a hot afternoon. And Dad said, Mum's having a baby, so you just go off and swim. And when she'd had her swim and came back, I was born.
Right.
And I think it was just a neighbour and that's what happened then.
Oh.
That's what happened then. It was usually somebody well known or that was a friend of the.
So not a trained midwife.
No.
And we were talking about Call the Midwife, how that was in the 60s, and that was just lots of times friends coming round and helping.
Yes.
But here we are in 1926 when you were born, Mum. And your mum, how old was she?
My mum was 42, which
42.
was
a good
age then,
yeah.
with none of the lovely things now that you have for midwifery.
Yeah.
So it was very hard for her, I'm sure.
Yeah. And so there you are, the baby of the family. With Uncle Alf at home, he was 10.
Yeah.
And Uncle Dick, he was away, 21.
Yeah.
And your sister May, she was 13.
Yes.
And sent out for the day when you were born. And
Dick was in the Navy, so he was not around.
No. So when he came home, there's 3 at home
Yes.
instead of 2. And you went to the little school, you were saying, so
Yes.
Mum could keep an eye on you. Oh, something's going...
Wrong.
They want me to join BT. And they're saying,
Oh,
I know, you try and do it. And anyway, we'll ignore that. And so then you went
to the school.
Yes. And you were having a bit of trouble at the school, you said, because you couldn't see properly.
Oh, but that was a few years ahead. I was about 8 when the teacher said that I couldn't see the board and I wasn't writing properly.
Yeah.
And so she called the nurse. She sent me to the nurse, and I had a test, an eye test, and the nurse said, definitely you need glasses.
Right.
So the next, I think it was probably the next week, I went to see, and in those days, all the professional people would come to the school on a certain day and do things. So then I was sent to the oculist, and he said definitely I needed glasses. So when I was 8, I had my first pair, which was awful because they were sort of celluloid and dark brown, and they were jolly tight on. They were.
Yes.
So I don't ever remember then for a few years of an optician. It was always all the tests done at school.
And you don't remember another test done at school, really?
No.
And the glasses being changed, do you?
No, not for quite a few years.
Yeah.
So when they were changed, I think I was about 12 when I had the next pair.
Right.
And even then it was, I believe they were still done, but that was at my new school then.
Right, and what was your new
12.
school?
That was Barnsley Central, because I got through I can't remember the examination then, but 11 plus.
Yes.
Yes.
But called it something different
yes,
then.
That's right,
yeah.
Yes. And that was good because that was central. It wasn't grammar and it wasn't comprehensive. It was in the middle.
Yeah.
And it was lovely. I was very happy
you
there.
Liked
it was
it,
a lovely school.
Barnsley
Yes.
Central.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I know you've talked about that before. And then when you were 13, Mum, was 1939.
39.
I mean, 13
yes.
in 1939. Yes. Oh, that's...
And the war started.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, Uncle Dick had a little dog. Do you remember
yes.
you were saying?
Yes.
And yesterday we got looking up about, well, what happened? You know, we were talking about vets, actually, because Mum's hairdresser needed to take her dog to the vets. And dogs go to the vets a lot nowadays, don't
yes.
they? We were saying that. She said, I can't ever remember Peggy, that was the dog's
yes.
name, wasn't it, going to the vets. And we checked, and it was very, very, in fact, what it said when we Googled was that in those days, up to about the 50s, middle of the 50s, it said, what happened with pets was that if the pet was ill, you put it down. And that was that. You know, they really said euthanize.
Yes.
Because there wasn't antibiotics and all of that. So it wasn't a question of, let's try and get this animal well. It was, let's put it out of its misery. And so animals were euthanized rather than treated like they are now. And also, as we're talking about 1939, the government panicked because they thought that people would share their rations with their animals and they wouldn't be eating enough because they really thought food would be, well, it was rationed, wasn't it? But
right. It was
drastically rationed. And so they set up places where you could take your pets, and they really encouraged people to do it and have them euthanized because they didn't know what was going to happen during the war. They didn't know if the animal would be able to eat. And so they said, best, it's kindest, put your animal to sleep. That's what we say now, isn't it?
Yeah.
And 750,000 pets were put to sleep, which it said many people regretted, because they could have, fed them and all of this during the war. And also they said it was horrific for the people that had to do it day after day after day, putting all these animals down. So you don't know what happened to Peggy?
No, I don't know. I know that my brother went to the war. He was in the army. So what happened, because there's no way...
You weren't looking after a little dog then, were you, Mum? So it seems like probably Uncle Dick thought, well, this is the kindest thing for Peggy too, and one day you said it was there and one day it wasn't. That's what you remember,
he
isn't
knew
it?
somebody that would take him in. I just don't know.
That was the other thing the government said. If you can, find someone in the country to have your animal. But of course, how many people could do that? So never mind animals. What about you, Mum? You were at school, in a lovely school.
And the schools then closed because thousands of children were evacuated then away from the big cities.
And were you evacuated?
And, well, I was equipped with a gas mask and all the equipment ready, and my mother put my name down, but she took me to the station with my gas mask, and then decided when we were there that she couldn't bear for me to go. So that she brought me home, and then the schools were closed. Those that were, one or two of them were allowed to open, and they had staff to run them, but then they were only open perhaps a couple of days a week, and you never quite knew which one you would go to. So
hit and miss then.
That's right. Yes. So
did you enjoy that or not?
In some ways, but in others not, because you had to travel a little bit, even though it was still in London, but you still had to go somewhere different.
And during the war, that must have been quite frightening, mustn't it? Yeah. And then, because it was just you, I think you said that because people had moved out and people were evacuated, you moved house.
Yes, we were. I believe we moved to a house in a very pretty part of London, near Finsbury Park, I believe it was. And but then, of course, in London, then all the railings were removed from the park, so parks were completely different. But it was in a nice area with
a pretty part of London, Finsbury Park. If you knew it now, it's so built up. But then a pretty part of London. But it was transformed because the railings were, if you had any railings, they were all taken away.
Taken away and melted down to make armaments for the
so you
troops.
Moved into a house, which must have been quite nice.
Yes,
I wonder if you had cupboards in that house, Mum.
Oh, we probably did, yes. But I probably didn't notice
then. No, you didn't then.
The difference. No.
So we're going to leave it there this week, Mum, with you just beginning in the war, going to the schools in different places, and then next week we'll talk about your famous air raid shelter and your experiences in the war, and we'll do that. And I wanted to just talk about this photo. I'll put it up here because this is the photo of your mum and your dad and you. How old do you think you are here, Mum?
I think I was about 8.
About 8?
Yes.
You've definitely got glasses on, Mum.
Yes, so that was probably my first pair of specs. I think I was about 8 then. And we used to, I don't ever remember going on holiday, but we often had a day out, and our day out was usually at Southend.
Right.
And because Dad loved one of the pubs there, he used to like to have his pint. And Mum always took that little bag, which was made of...
Oh, yes. That cardboard type.
Yes, I forget what they called it then, but it had a nice glossy front, but it was soft. You could but she always carried that case wherever we went. She put little bits of. She probably had a few sandwiches in there or whatever.
Yes.
And and that was our day out.
And it's quite typical, Mum, of the time, because you're all dressed up in hats and coats, and your dad's got a tie on.
Yes.
And there you are.
That was a Sunday. It was always a Sunday if we went out for the day.
It went out, yeah.
And Southend was lovely because it had the Kersal and lots of places to go.
Yeah.
So I used to enjoy that.
And you've got like a velour hat on.
Yes.
Was that a school hat, Mum, do you think, or was that...
Yes, that was a school hat.
A school hat,
yes.
yeah, because often we wore school things. So what year's that then? If you're about 8?
That's 34.
1934.
Yes.
So a nice time, really. You're not thinking about the war. You're growing up a bit.
Yes.
Yes, you've got glasses, but
no.
Your brother's 18, and I think he joined the Navy then when he was very young. Uncle Alf.
No, Uncle Alf was. Oh yes, that's right. He was.
Yes. So he was probably gone.
Yes.
And of course Uncle Dick was gone, and
yes, there was just 3 of us then.
And Auntie May. What year was this? 1934. And she.
No, I was 6 when I was an aunt.
Oh, well, there we are then. So Auntie May had been married.
Her
2
little
years.
girl was 2 years old.
2 years old.
Yes.
Lived round the corner.
Yes.
And so quite a nice time in your life, really.
Yes.
Not too many worries.
No.
Yeah, and your mum and dad were
well. That was
a
I
nice
used to enjoy
time.
those days out.
So we're and what, Mum?
Yeah, and when you think of it, they had to save up for that because that was quite a good bit of cash to get the either a coach or the train. It was probably a coach because I think that was cheaper than the train into Southend from London.
Yeah.
So, no, it was lovely.
Nice treat.
Yes.
Yeah, and you remember this, don't you?
Oh, yes.
So, yes, you've been looking at the photo while we have too. So we'll say cheerio, and we'll see you next week when we talk about Mum's experience in the air raid shelter and other things happening in the war too.
Lovely.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.
So thank you, Mum. That was lovely. I do so enjoy my chats with her. I'm finding out so much that I didn't know before, and I really appreciate it. I hope you enjoy it too. So now it's Poetry Corner, and I'm going to read you a poem that Heather wrote about a pressure cooker. And we're talking with Mum about the pressure cooker, and she said, so scary. And I feel the same. I've never actually had the courage to use one, although I should do. It's silly, really. But so Heather's written this poem about a pressure cooker, and it's called Pressure King Pro. Oh, that's what it's called. Pressure cookers, old and new. My mother bought a pressure cooker when I was 13. The most untrusted object that my eyes have ever seen. A fearsome thing, and noisy too. I didn't like its powers, but it softened all the veggies up in minutes, not in hours. We cowered in the living room and listened, filled with dread, and feared a huge explosion and no chance of being fed. With sideways looks but nothing said, we sisters knew the score. There was no way we were venturing inside that kitchen door. Let's just get chips. Oh, go on, Mum, please, let us, please. We'd pout, especially on the nights we thought the cooker might come out. Had all the stress been worth it? To have soup in record time? No more steamed up kitchen or fatty splattered grime? But here we are, the years have passed. We live to tell the tale. Now new and modern pressure cookers are everywhere on sale. A trusted friend, well-meaning, said, this way to cook's now new, and won me over with her promises of 15-minute stew. It's called a Pressure King, she said. Its name, it ends with Pro. You'd better get one ordered soon in case they all might go. No way, I gasped. I cannot cook unless I have this thing. So my search for eBay offers would now earnestly begin. I found one. What a beauty. It would surely do the trick. Included was a Teflon pot, so nothing now would stick. It joined my other gadgets, and soon was found a spot between the Kenwood mixer and the Le Creusier cooking pot. I churned out curries, dals and soups and fillings fit for pies. A gargantuan stack of goodies was displayed before my eyes. Armed with tongs and oven gloves, I never gave a thought to cooking rock-hard chickpeas which years ago I'd bought. In went carrots, onions, peas, oxo cubes and rice, and every time the lid came off, well, there was something nice. Sweet things too, like jam and rice and puddings. What a treat! With saving all this cooking time, I had more time to eat. I absolutely love it, and I really shouldn't moan, but when standing on the scales today, I was nearly 20 stone. It's super, isn't it? I absolutely love it. Thanks, Heather. Really made us chuckle. It really did. So the next bit is our little trip. Heather and Andrew and Pete and myself, we went up to Yorkshire, and we wanted to go and see the Gannets and the Puffins. And so off we went, and we thoroughly enjoyed ourselves, and we had beautiful, beautiful weather. It was a couple of years ago now, but I thought you'd like to see it because it's lovely to see a puffin, and the gannets were in the, thousands. Now, a gannet's wingspan is 6 feet, which is amazing when you see them up so close. And it puts its wings back like that, and it dives into the water like that. It's Pete's favourite bird, so it was a joy to see. Dives into the water like that, 60 miles an hour. And scientists, I was reading, they wanted to copy that. And it took them quite a while because they kept breaking. They kept making the prototype, 60 miles an hour, whoomp, broke. I mean, the gannet can do it just so beautifully. It puts its wings back like that, and its nose like that, and then it says it just gets under the water. It can go down, not hundreds of feet, but about 38 feet or something like that, whoomph, and it can focus straight away and see where it is. It's truly another feat of engineering. We say that, don't we? I said that about DNA, but it's fantastic. So the scientists wanted to copy it, but they couldn't. But now they have, and they've got this drone, and they can send this drone out into, places where it's, if the water's polluted, to take water samples and all of that. And it's amazing. They copied the gannets, and now they've got it right. And so this drone can go off and take water samples in places where it's dangerous, or where they want to get a water sample where it's hard for a man to go, to send the drone out. But it took them a while to perfect it. So here we go. Yeah, the gannet got it right. Thank goodness, because that trip along those cliffs, Bempton Cliffs, it was a treat. So I'll put that up now, and I'll say thank you for joining me. I hope you're enjoying our little forays into little thing. Well, I don't know what you'd say. What would you say? Just little forays. That's enough, isn't it? Yeah, so I love you and leave you, and I'll see you next week, next Monday, all being well. Bye. Have a good week. Take care.